Trump talked about peace, the world relaxed for a moment, and then everything changed. While cameras focused on words, the Pentagon made a move that sent shockwaves through Moscow. Russian military channels erupted, analysts panicked, and Putin was suddenly facing pressure from all sides. Was this strategy, coincidence, or a calculated power play? Stay with us, because what happened next explains why Russia's military found itself in unexpected chaos. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are breaking down a story that caught global attention and triggered intense debate across political and military circles worldwide. When Donald Trump publicly spoke about peace, many people assumed tensions might finally cool down. His words sounded calming, diplomatic, and even reassuring to audiences exhausted by years of conflict. However, while public statements suggested de-escalation, behind closed doors a very different reality was unfolding. The Pentagon quietly approved strategic steps that immediately raised alarms inside Russia. These moves were not announced with dramatic speeches or flashy headlines, yet their impact was far stronger than any public warning. Russian military analysts began noticing unusual signals, unexpected deployments, and intelligence activity that did not align with peace messaging. This contradiction created confusion and panic within certain Russian defense circles. Soldiers, commanders, and state media struggled to explain why actions on the ground did not match the language coming from Washington. This is where the chaos narrative truly begins. The gap between diplomatic words and military actions often defines modern geopolitics. In this case, that gap became impossible to ignore. Today's video will explain how one statement about peace coincided with decisions that reshaped pressure on Moscow. We will explore what the Pentagon did, why it mattered, how Russia reacted, and what this situation means for global stability moving forward. To understand the shock, we must first examine why Trump's peace statement mattered so much at that moment. Trump has always used strong, unpredictable language, so when he spoke calmly about peace, it sent a signal to allies and rivals alike. Many interpreted his words as a possible shift toward negotiation or reduced confrontation. Markets reacted cautiously, commentators speculated, and diplomatic channels began buzzing with renewed discussion. Russia, in particular, paid close attention. Historically, Russian leadership carefully analyzes every word from American presidents, especially when military pressure is already high. Trump's message created an expectation gap. While the public heard peace, Russian intelligence services were simultaneously monitoring American military behavior. What they saw did not match the tone. Surveillance activity increased, coordination with allies intensified, and logistical movements suggested preparation rather than relaxation. This mismatch caused immediate concern. Russian planners rely heavily on predicting intentions, and mixed signals complicate response strategies. Uncertainty is dangerous in military planning. It forces rapid reassessment, drains resources, and increases the risk of miscalculation. That is exactly what unfolded. Instead of stability, Trump's peace language unintentionally amplified anxiety within Russian command structures. They were left questioning whether diplomacy was genuine or simply a distraction. In global power politics, perception often matters as much as reality, and in this case, perception alone was enough to trigger internal stress across Russia's military system. The Pentagon's role in this story is central because its actions speak louder than political messaging. While Trump addressed peace publicly, Pentagon planners focused on maintaining strategic leverage. Reports indicated adjustments in force readiness, intelligence sharing, and regional coordination with allied militaries. None of these steps required dramatic announcements, yet each carried serious implications. For Russia, these moves suggested that the United States was not easing pressure at all. Instead, it appeared to be reinforcing its position quietly and efficiently. This approach reflects modern military doctrine, where signaling strength does not always involve public confrontation. Silent preparedness can be more unsettling than open threats. Russian defense analysts quickly noticed changes in patterns they monitor daily. Training schedules shifted, reconnaissance flights adjusted routes, and allied exercises gained new importance. These developments forced Russian commanders to respond, stretching already strained resources. Every response costs money, manpower, and attention. Over time, this creates internal friction. When leadership must constantly react to uncertain signals, coordination suffers, morale becomes fragile, and mistakes become more likely. The Pentagon understands this dynamic well. By maintaining pressure without loud escalation, it placed Russia in a defensive posture while avoiding direct provocation. This balance is difficult to achieve, yet highly effective. The result was not immediate conflict, but growing disorder within Russian military planning, which is exactly why analysts describe the situation as controlled chaos rather than open confrontation. Inside Russia, the reaction unfolded across multiple layers of the military establishment. High-level commanders demanded clearer intelligence assessments, while mid-level officers scrambled to interpret new orders. State-aligned media attempted to project calm, but independent analysts highlighted contradictions they could not ignore. Soldiers on the ground noticed increased alert levels without clear explanations. This environment breeds uncertainty. When instructions change rapidly and threats feel ambiguous, operational efficiency declines. Russian military doctrine values centralized control and clear hierarchy. Confusion disrupts that structure. As uncertainty spread, logistical challenges emerged. Equipment had to be repositioned, communication lines tested, and contingency plans updated. Each adjustment increased strain on an already complex system. Meanwhile, political leadership faced pressure to respond publicly without escalating the situation. Any overreaction could validate fears, while silence risked appearing weak. This delicate balance contributed to internal tension. The chaos described by observers was not explosive or dramatic, but slow and systemic. It manifested as confusion, over-preparation, and constant reassessment. These conditions are costly in long-term military readiness. The Pentagon's quiet actions effectively forced Russia into this position. By doing little publicly and much strategically, it shaped Russian behavior without firing a single shot. This is how modern power struggles often unfold, through pressure, perception, and persistent uncertainty rather than open warfare. International observers quickly noticed the ripple effects beyond Russia. Allies of the United States interpreted the situation as reassurance that security commitments remained strong despite peace-oriented language. European military planners increased coordination, sharing assessments and aligning readiness levels. This unity further complicated Russia's calculations. When multiple countries move in coordination, predicting intent becomes harder. Russia now faced not just American pressure, but a broader network acting with shared awareness. Diplomatic channels remained open, yet trust was limited. Each side questioned the other's sincerity. Trump's peace message created diplomatic space, but the Pentagon's actions filled that space with strategic caution. For smaller nations watching closely, this episode reinforced an important lesson. Public rhetoric does not always reflect operational reality. Governments often speak softly while preparing firmly. This realization influenced regional planning and defense spending discussions. The situation also highlighted the importance of intelligence gathering. Nations that detected subtle shifts early felt more confident in their assessments. Those relying solely on public statements risked misjudgment. In global security, misjudgment can be dangerous. The broader consequence was a renewed focus on preparedness rather than optimism. Peace remained a goal, but not an assumption. The Russian military chaos, therefore, had international implications. It reminded the world that stability depends not just on words, but on consistent actions, transparent intentions, and mutual understanding, all of which were strained during this tense period. Another critical aspect is the psychological dimension of this confrontation. Military strategy is not only about hardware and numbers, but also about confidence and perception. Trump's peace statement lowered public expectations of confrontation, while the Pentagon's actions maintained pressure behind the scenes. This dual approach created psychological stress within Russian leadership. They had to prepare for worst-case scenarios while publicly acknowledging peaceful rhetoric. Such cognitive dissonance is exhausting for decision-makers. Over time, it can lead to hesitation or overcompensation. Both outcomes carry risk. Analysts suggest this psychological strain was intentional. By avoiding overt escalation, the United States reduced the likelihood of immediate retaliation while still influencing Russian behavior. The Russian military thrives on predictability in adversary actions. When predictability disappears, planning becomes reactive. Reactive systems are less efficient and more prone to error. This is where chaos truly takes shape. Not explosions, but fatigue, doubt, and constant vigilance. The Pentagon's approach leveraged this reality. It demonstrated how modern power competition often targets mental resilience as much as physical capability. Understanding this helps explain why the situation escalated internally without visible conflict. The battlefield shifted from borders to decision rooms, where pressure is quieter, but deeply impactful. Media coverage played a significant role in amplifying perceptions of chaos. Russian state media attempted to downplay concerns, emphasizing stability and readiness. However, leaks, expert commentary, and social media discussions told a more complex story. Military bloggers and analysts questioned unusual movements and inconsistent messaging. These discussions reached wider audiences, increasing public curiosity and concern. Information spreads rapidly in the digital age, and controlling narratives is increasingly difficult. For the Russian military, this meant internal issues were being discussed externally. Such exposure can damage morale. Soldiers and officers aware of public scrutiny may feel additional pressure. Meanwhile, Western media framed the situation as strategic brilliance by the Pentagon. This framing reinforced the perception that Russia was being outmaneuvered. Perception matters. Even if operational control remained intact, the narrative of chaos itself became influential. Adversaries gain confidence, allies feel reassured, and neutral observers reassess power balances. The information environment thus became another battlefield. Trump's peace statement softened headlines temporarily, but Pentagon actions reshaped them quickly. The contrast fueled debate and analysis worldwide. Ultimately, the media did not create the situation, but it magnified its effects. In modern conflicts, managing perception is inseparable from managing strategy, and this episode demonstrated that clearly. Looking ahead, the long-term consequences of this episode are still unfolding. Russia is likely to adapt its strategies, improving internal coordination and intelligence interpretation. Lessons learned from confusion often lead to reforms. However, reforms take time and resources. During that adjustment period, vulnerability remains. For the United States, the episode reinforced the effectiveness of quiet deterrence. Maintaining readiness without loud escalation preserves flexibility. It allows room for diplomacy while safeguarding strategic interests. Future administrations may study this approach carefully. For global stability, the key takeaway is complexity. Peace is not achieved through words alone, nor is security guaranteed by force alone. The interaction between rhetoric and action defines outcomes. When these elements diverge, uncertainty fills the gap. Managing that uncertainty responsibly is essential. Mismanagement can lead to accidental escalation. In this case, restraint and calculation prevented open conflict, despite heightened tension. That outcome should not be taken for granted. As power competition continues, similar situations will arise. Understanding how and why chaos emerges without war helps policymakers, analysts, and citizens interpret future events more clearly. The story of Trump, the Pentagon, and Russia is less about personalities and more about systems, signals, and strategic psychology shaping the modern world. It is also important to consider how this event fits into the broader pattern of recent history. Over the past decade, global powers have increasingly relied on indirect pressure rather than direct confrontation. Sanctions, intelligence operations, cyber activity, and military signaling have replaced large-scale deployments. This approach reduces immediate risk, but increases complexity. The situation discussed today fits perfectly into that pattern. Trump's peace statement functioned as diplomatic signaling, while Pentagon actions represented strategic continuity. Russia's reaction revealed the challenges of navigating this environment. Traditional responses are less effective against subtle pressure. Adapting requires innovation, patience, and clarity. Without these, confusion grows. The Russian military chaos described by analysts should therefore be seen as a symptom, not a collapse. It reflects stress within a system adjusting to evolving threats. Observers should avoid oversimplification. This was not a single move defeating an opponent, but a series of signals interacting unpredictably. Understanding this nuance is crucial for informed discussion. Simplistic narratives may attract attention, but reality is layered. Recognizing layers allows better judgment. As viewers, staying informed means looking beyond headlines and examining underlying dynamics. This channel aims to provide that deeper perspective, connecting events, motivations, and consequences in a complex global landscape. In conclusion, the moment when Trump said peace and the Pentagon acted quietly offers a powerful lesson in modern geopolitics. Words shape expectations, but actions shape reality. When those two elements diverge, uncertainty emerges. For Russia, that uncertainty translated into internal pressure and operational stress. For the United States, it demonstrated a method of maintaining influence without overt escalation. For the world, it highlighted how fragile stability can be. The chaos described was not visible on battlefields, but within planning rooms, media narratives, and psychological calculations. This is where many future conflicts will be decided. Understanding these dynamics helps us interpret headlines more critically. It reminds us that behind every public statement lies a web of decisions, interests, and strategies. Peace remains a goal worth pursuing, but it must be supported by consistent, transparent actions to be sustainable. As global competition continues, similar contradictions will test leaders and institutions. How they manage those tests will shape international order. Staying informed, questioning narratives, and analyzing actions alongside words are essential skills for navigating today's world. This story is not over, but its lessons are already clear for anyone willing to look closely and think critically. If you found this analysis helpful, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into global power and breaking geopolitical stories.